The NBA is set to return on July 30th in the Bubble City, or whatever you want to call it, in Orlando, where we will have 24 teams battling to get into the top 16 for the postseason. But here's why we should be worried about this Bubble City. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Jacob Baines here with Amateur Hour Sports, where we give you raw and unfiltered sporting content Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So if it is your first time here with me today, maybe you like some insight and opinion on the sporting world, and maybe some informative videos on the history of sport, make sure you subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports. So this Bubble City apparently hosting the rest of the regular season, but only for 24 teams, the other ones who were more than 6 games back of the top 8 of their respective conference. They were just eliminated. No more playing. There's no sense of wasting those guys' time because they're not going to make the playoffs. But with these 24 teams, there are lots of guys like Damian Lillard and Carmelo Anthony who are voicing how they are a little bit skeptical about playing in this Bubble City for the remainder of the NBA season. We got a Woj explosion, not really a Woj bomb, but we got a Woj explosion that there were various players who were meeting up in an online call discussing their concerns and potential worries about playing in this Bubble City. Now let's look at this situation with those players talking about it. Is it really going to be low-tier NBA players in this call? Absolutely not. This is going to be high-profile NBA stars on this call talking about their concerns. It's definitely going to have a guy like LeBron James involved. So maybe there is a bit of concern amongst the players about this Bubble City, and I think there should be a great deal of concern. If all the players involved in this are in this Bubble City, in this bubble, you need to make sure that every single player does not breach their quarantine obligations. Everybody has to stay put on lockdown. If a single player breaks that quarantine, it puts the rest of their team at risk. And if they play against another team that night or the night after or anywhere within 14 days, really, it puts that team at risk. And if it's exposed to that team, then it could put other teams at risk. And that is how something like this goes viral. One breach of quarantine can cause that potential problem for the NBA players, especially knowing how poorly the US is handling and has handled the outbreak, and even more especially how much more poorly Florida has handled the outbreak since it started, with the NBA games taking place in Orlando. These are rich NBA players, rich athletes as a whole. Sometimes the fame, the glory, the money, it can go to your head a little bit. And when this glory goes to your head, you can develop this sense of invincibility, thinking that, well, maybe not invincible to the outbreak, but if you go out, you're invincible to the possible repercussions associated with it. You're a top dog. You don't need to be chained down in this quarantine. You want to be, maybe you want a night out, and maybe you do not calculate the risk of having that night out for yourself. Maybe you're sick of just staying in this one location constantly unless you're at a practice or a game. You do not calculate the risk associated with exposing your teammates or exposing any other team in the league. One slip up and potentially the entire league has a problem. This is my big worry about this. We got to trust 24 teams with a 15-man roster. That's 360 players. And that's just the players. We're not talking about the staff, the coaches, the trainers, any media personnel, amongst other people. All of these people have to stay in quarantine. They cannot breach any of the regulations. And the NBA has this theory that none of them will breach these regulations. But that is a far-fetched theory. I recognize that the NBA is going to do everything possible to make safety, and I know safety is their first priority. The first priority after making sure games continue, obviously. But I am a bit nervous about the potential dangers of having all these players in this bubble city. But I'm sure, Adam Silver, a man of the people, a man of the players, he wants to make sure that this is a safe and fair conduct in how they bring out and how they find the conclusion of the NBA season. We do need to understand that for various players, there is a lot more at stake than others. For Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers, a team who's probably not going to be in the last 16 for the actual playoffs, is this really worth the risk? I don't think so. I have to side with him with his concerns. Do I really need to risk my health and safety to play in basically meaningless games? But for other players, there is a legacy on the line. For LeBron James, he wants to go out and win that 4th championship and cement himself as a top 2, maybe even top 1 basketball player of all time. Giannis is desperate to win an NBA championship in Milwaukee, and if he doesn't win a championship in Milwaukee, then he will have a very big decision to make at the conclusion of his contract coming up very soon. Maybe Kawhi Leonard is hungry for that 3rd ring and maybe a 3rd Finals MVP, becoming the first player to ever win 3 Finals MVPs on 3 different teams. There is a lot more at stake for these guys than the likes of Carmelo Anthony and Damian Lillard. This driving force trumps the desire for safety. LeBron James definitely knows that this is probably his best chance at winning a championship in LA. Giannis probably thinks this is Milwaukee's best chance at the championship before his contract runs out. This desire for success with legacies on the line trumps and makes that safety an afterthought. Also, for an NBA fan, like somebody like myself, the desire to see basketball again, to see sport again, to watch our favorite players and watch what's going to be an amazing playoffs this season, that trumps our desire to make sure that the players are 100% safe. We want to see it happen again. We want to see games. In Germany, the Bundesliga, the soccer league in Germany, has been running for a few weeks now with a great degree of success. But Germany has mitigated the outbreak a lot better than the US has, although it does show that sports can continue in this time and can continue successfully at that. So the NBA needs to be very careful how they handle this process and the return of the sport. So to round off, yes, we should be worried about this bubble city. The NBA needs to keep a very diligent eye on its players, coaches, staff, whatever. It needs to be very diligent in ensuring that none of these players break their quarantine, putting everybody else at risk. I remember in the Bundesliga, the head coach of Union Berlin, he needed a new toothbrush, and a necessity, he had to go get a toothbrush, but because he broke his quarantine to go buy said toothbrush at the local shop, he was banned from coaching for 14 days because he had to quarantine because he breached the lockdown to go get a toothbrush. This is how seriously things need to be taken to ensure the safety of all the players. The athletes are not the guinea pigs for our entertainment. Safety needs to come first. That's all for this video. Just wanted to give my thoughts on this situation. A big situation. I hope the NBA can come back, but I do hope it can come back in a very safe manner for the players. This is building them to be one of the best postseasons in a very long time. A lot of teams with the ability to go on and win a championship, and seeing a guy like LeBron James, the potential to see LeBron James win another championship is something I am very excited to watch. But please like the video if you like, and subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more content just like this as well. Hit that notification bell. We post 4 times a week. Stay up to date with all the raw and unfiltered sporting content coming your way. At the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that's okay. See you again next time.